Hello everyone. It's James again. And today I want to talk about something very important. But before we jump into the topic, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to help this channel's growth. And if you've already subscribed, I do thank you and appreciate you. Also don't forget to click the little bell to be notified each and every time I make a new video. And don't forget to share and like, so this content will have a better chance at making its way to the front of YouTube. So the people that really need to hear and see this information will have a chance to hear and see this information. And if you want to support even further, you can do so by the way of Patreon. And to those that have supported by the way of Patreon, I want to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Every little bit helps. And it does mean a lot to me. Those of you that have supported by the way of Patreon and sent me messages there are so kind. And my prayers go out to you and your lives. And I'm really hoping the best for you, as I hope the best for all of you. But again, a humble thank you from me to you, for those that are supporting by the way of Patreon. With that said, let's jump into the topic at hand. Who has narcissistic personality disorder, the most, men or women? And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is there was a few comments addressing this. And some that noticed that men are talking a lot about narcissistic women. And that some men might be saying that women are more narcissistic than men. And I wanted to chime in and talk about this topic and shed some light if I can. First of all, the textbook numbers of who has narcissism and who doesn't, meaning the personality disorder, I believe to be way off. Because in the same literature that talks about this, also mentions that narcissists by and large don't seek out help or counseling for their problems. Which would tell us there are many narcissists, or those that are on this spectrum, that are roaming the streets that are undiagnosed. And if that's the case, and we are dealing with a disorder that the one that has it usually will never seek help, how can we gain an accurate accounting on who has this problem more, men or women? Now to backtrack a moment. I recently watched one of the interviews done by Cassie J. of the Red Pill documentary, where she interviews several people to find out more about men's issues, as she was at one time a feminist. And there was one interview I'm trying to find. And once I find it, I will do a video talking about this one interview. And I will link it for you to watch. But Cassie J is interviewing this man, where he's going through textbooks that talk about abuse, and who faces abuse more. And everywhere you looked, the data was skewed to point men to almost always being the predators and abusers, and the women almost always the victim of such men, when in reality the highest violent rates are between two women, depending on which study you look at and which study you believe. But with that being said, now this man being interviewed mentioned how many of these women groups worked hard to get into positions of power that had influence over the numbers that we see as far as abuse. Now why would that matter to them? To get into all of these positions of power and have control over the narrative that you and I are given. Well, you have to remember something that many of the women in these groups started to say decades ago. Such as, the family unit has no place for men, just women and children. Or, women will never be free until the family unit is destroyed. Or children are useful bargaining chips in a divorce. Remember how in the last couple of videos where I talked about how the narcissist, no matter they be the man or woman, will say what their true intentions are at the start of the relationships oftentimes. But because they on top of that, they do some nice things, we overlook the horrible things that they just said about how they view certain things. Because just like we look back on our past relationship, and we say, wait a minute, how come I didn't hit the brakes right then and there? Well, we didn't because we were caught off guard. We didn't because of our conditioning we might have received in our home life, but also our regular life out in the world and what we've seen on television and the movies. Well, The same is true in this instance. When many of these groups were making such statements back then, you would think someone would have stood up besides Aaron Pizzi and a few others, and say, "Hey, wait just a darn minute." But they didn't want to get involved. They figured, oh, those crazy people. No one will care or listen. Plus, I don't want to stick myself out there. I want to just live my life and not be bothered. Well, I have news for you. Those people many deemed as crazy are now writing the narrative for the world we are now living in. Now, how does this play into who has this problem of narcissism? Or being a narcissistic abuser more? Men or women? Well, if you were to read the literature out there, you would think it's men. And that's exactly what those women's groups want you and I to believe. Because that means more funding and more control for them. They cannot admit that men suffer the same amount of abuse as they do. And furthermore, they can't admit that women abuse other women at the same rate as well. On the job. And otherwise. Because if they did that, it would blow their entire narrative out of the water. But hold on a second. Now you have a lot of men speaking up, talking about female narcissists. Even some possibly saying that there are more female narcissists than male. Now, why would this be? The reason is twofold. The first one being, we live in a world that protects, helps and encourages female abusers. That's right. You see it everywhere. Men and women arrested for the same crime. The woman gets an ankle bracelet and community service. And the man gets 25 years of hard time. In the interview with Cassie J, this man mentioned how in England I believe they are working hard to figure out a way to do away with female prisons and jails. Let that sink in for just a moment. And he also mentioned when LA in California had an overcrowding prison and jail system, they elected to let female prisoners out before considering releasing the men. Mind you, all in there for the same crimes. But for some reason a woman drug dealer is less harmful than a male drug dealer. Or a woman killer is less dangerous than a male killer. Again, let that sink in for just a moment. So you have this one aspect, where women are helped and protected oftentimes when they abuse others. Especially when they abuse men. And the second part of this is, there are some men that are so angry that they miss the big picture. And I say that because I understand why they are angry. And I think only a small percent is doing this. Because I've watched many channels of men talking about men's issues. Even the ones that use strong language. And you will even hear these men say, yes, there are some bad men out there. And yes, women do go through these things. But, and there is a but. And that but is, men being abused is accepted and encouraged in our society. Whereas women that are abused is seen as a crisis that must be stomped out by any means. But with that being said, yes, I've heard a few people say that there are more women narcissists than men. And I think they are missing the point. It's not about who is the narcissist. It's about who the system benefits. Because when watching an interview with Paul Elam, and I think it was with Cassie J as well, he mentioned that he believes that if the laws were flipped to where men could utterly destroy women in court, that men probably would be doing exactly what the women are doing right now. You see, if you are a by and large good person, but let's say you find yourself in a situation where you just cheated on someone you are with. Maybe you're married or in a serious relationship. Maybe you have children. This good person doesn't want their name to be that of a cheater. It's normal for someone to lie in such a situation. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's by and large what a great amount of people would do when confronted with such a situation. Well, divorce and family court allow many women, not all, but many women in our society to not be held accountable for the bad actions. And for someone else, such as the man she was with, to take on that responsibility for her negative and bad actions. You see, as I mentioned before, if we lived in a world where people could draw up their own contracts and they weren't thrown out by the court, and family court was only needed in rare situations, and getting married and having children and getting a divorce wasn't seen as hitting the lotto. And then let's say you have a woman getting hit on by some man, and she is married and has children. She might have a demon on her shoulder telling her to just go for it and do it. Then you have the angel on her shoulder telling her that it's wrong and to not do it. But the demon keeps pressuring her, and tells her how much fun it will be and no one will ever know. Then the angel comes back and says, look, if you do this, and your husband finds out, you're on your own, you know. You will see your child half of the time. You won't be getting any money. You will have to pay your fair share. And it won't be such a glamorous life. Now, will there still be in this case women that cheat? Yes. But there will be a lot more, I think, that would err on the side of caution and say it's not worth it. Especially if they've seen friends get left by their husbands because of the wife cheating. And everything was done fair. So much so, there was no money given to the wife. These consequences can have sobering effects on those in our society. Now, of course, this would go both ways if the man cheated. But I used the woman in this example for a reason. Let me backtrack a second. There was a video of the rapper Busta Rhymes getting into a little scuffle with a man on the street. Why? Because Busta Rhymes noticed this man walking down the street with his wife, and asked the man's wife to get into his car with him. And I believe this man's wife might have seemed interested. And this is where the man started to get into Busta Rhymes' face. But let's look at that. I don't know if this couple has children. Let's say they do. Do you think this woman would have even acknowledged Busta Rhymes if the husband in this situation could file for divorce and not lose his shirt? That's an interesting question, isn't it? If she were to be held accountable for her actions, she probably wouldn't have acknowledged Busta Rhymes at all, and might have said, "I'm a married woman," and kept on walking. But more and more women are doing this out in the open, right in front of their boyfriends and husbands, because they literally know their boyfriends or husbands are stuck. They know divorce court and family court favor them, the woman. They know they have this or that amount of children, so they will more than likely get this amount of money. There is no reason for them to act responsibly and decently. So many, not all of them, but many of them don't act responsibly. Now, where are the narcissist men? Well, they are picking up on other men's wives and girlfriends and laughing about it. Or they pick women with codependent issues. They, like most narcissists, are good at sniffing out what type of person someone is, and latching onto someone that fits their requirements for a good victim. But they know the law isn't on their side. So they work really hard to secure someone that will never leave them. And they work really hard to get ahead of the situation with smear campaigns and everything that will make them look good and the woman they are with as being bad. But personally, I go by on what I see. Simply just look at news stories, and you will see an almost equal amount of men and women doing the same kind of evil to one another and to even their children. But, and there is a but, whenever you have an evil man and woman team doing evil to someone else or possibly their children, usually or most of the time, the female demon in the group points the finger at that man and says, "He put me up to it," when in reality she's more than likely just as cold-hearted and evil as the man. But this is the society we live in. And the more the laws stay the same, the more you are going to see men talking about female narcissism. It's that simple. Until we see women protesting out in front of family court, demanding for a change, or working with Congress on such issues, or trying to get at least an acknowledgement that men and women are both abuse victims, you're going to see a rise of more and more men and women even talking about narcissist women. As for men, I recognize that both men and women can hold the title of narcissistic abuser. However, I also realize that we live in a society where if a man goes on a simple coffee date, he might want to record the interaction for fear of a false allegation. I've talked to men that say they record everything they do. Everything. That's just sad when you think about it. It's just sad. So yes, both men and women I believe are narcissists at the same rate. However, our society encourages women that are narcissists and women that aren't narcissists to behave like they are. Well, that's all I have for now. I hope your day was blessed. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.